So a couple things have been on my mind, and just thought I'd contemplate out loud on these ideas. So the first one, which I'm trying to think of possibilities myself. They're not preset in my mind as far as what I think is happening. But I would like to give it to all of you and see if you guys have thought about this at all. And if you have, what have you come up with? So I was just watching a chess match. Hikaru Nakamura was playing Magnus Carlsen. Magnus just won. And there were 35,000 people in the chat, just on YouTube. So when they have big events like that with top level players, then sometimes they'll get 100,000 viewers across the boards with Twitch, YouTube. I think it's just Twitch and YouTube, but they have various channels. But my point being, they've got a lot of people and they're live. And I noticed, like I always notice, that there are certain things that are not discussed in these lives at all. And I mean at all. Not even anything brought up. And normally I myself make some sort of comment about elephants in rooms and, kind of poke and prod around a little bit to see, to feel the pulse of the chess people. And usually somebody will say something, there might be they won't necessarily agree that there is an elephant in the room, but there will be some banter about me mentioning it. And this time there just was none. There was no banter whatsoever. So maybe my comment was just shadow banned, but maybe also the people's minds have been so well programmed that the elephant in the room is not the only thing that's invisible. It's also any other person, thing, words, articles, anything that points to the elephant in the room also becomes completely invisible. That, to me, that's just mind-boggling. Excuse me. So my question was then, for you all, I know we've beat the dead horse a lot. The dead horse being that what is going on and what has been going on the past few years is purely and only cooked up by the dark, the cabal, the Rockefellers and Schwabs, all these characters. That's how. Am I allowed to say Rockefeller and cabal? I don't know where the censorship is right now. I mean, it's been so ridiculous. I almost thought that we were going to come to the point to where if somebody says safe and effective in a conversation, they're going to get shadow banned or blocked, or it's it almost feels like the censorship is such that something like that could happen, or at the minimum, the programs that look for keywords you could program into that flag when somebody says safe and effective, because they could be sarcastically pointing to the thing, which we don't want anyone to talk about. If it were a very, very, very high level pruning organization, that's what they would do. They would program in the possibility for sarcasm, because as you probably know if you've ever watched JP Sears, that's how he can talk shit on all these guys and generally get away with it. Or maybe he is, as everybody loves to say, if anyone has a large following and they haven't yet been shut down, controlled opposition. I personally don't like the tendency of people in this community to shout out these like knee-jerk judgments. It's almost like the thought space surrounding what is called the truther movement, or more well known as the conspiracy theorists. It's almost like the associative mental maps that people use to have discussions about this stuff at all have become somewhat viral and reactive, to where someone can look at a presenter on YouTube who has 50,000 subs, and regardless of their content or how they're presenting anything, they are immediately judged as controlled opposition, just because in your head, I'm sure most of you have the idea already. If somebody has over 10,000 followers, then there is at least a chance that they could be controlled opposition. So you have to be kind of careful about that, and to make sure that you're not just pigeonholing anybody who speaks into some sort of category. I don't think it's really ever that simple, to be quite honest. So that was part number one. Part number two. Did I finish that idea? Oh, if the last 2 years has not just been the bad guys getting away with doing bad things, if it also is like what aspects that could be good for humanity could be within these last 2 to 3 years is what I'm asking. I don't know if too many people have thought about that side of it, or that possibility. And at least one possibility that I have thought of is, you know how when Og used to talk at all, he would talk about the split in society, or the split in breakaway civilizations versus everybody here, or most people here. And he referenced the idea that at some point the trajectory up and away from normal society hits like an exponential growth rate. And eventually they're so far away and outside of what so-called regular people think that the two civilizations would be unrecognizable, maybe even as civilizations to each other. Like there wouldn't be at least the lowest common denominator for communication anymore. They just wouldn't be able to. interact. Once the growth rate of differences or technological advancement, which is pretty much what that means, once that has gotten past a certain point, then their communication is just about impossible, if not actually impossible. So the thought was that perhaps, so as not to fully traumatize and even fragment, shatter the collective mind that has been left behind for the most part, so as to not destroy that mind, or possibly destroy it, or irrevocably damage or fracture it, there could be a benefit of getting an operating system made of nanotechnology inside of humans that are behind, and connecting them to the mainframe. Maybe that's a way to mitigate trauma. So they would be able to be brought up to speed on where the breakaway civilizations have actually gotten us. And when I say us, I mean if there are large corporations using technology that regular humans would view as magic, then it is us. Like, we are still living in the society that has quote unquote broken away. It's just the advancements are being used against the regular people, or as hedge against as a hedge against any type of attempting to balance the polarity extremes of rich and poor more toward the center, rather than just accelerating away from each other at light speeds. Where was I? I lost that thought, but yeah, just that maybe that could be a way to bring people up to speed without fracturing their minds. And I'm partially trying to rationalize the intense clamp on any discussion of these topics across the board, everywhere, if it's not just bad guys trying to hide. And number one, it's not really ever that simple. And number two, it's almost like number two is that it looks so lopsided as far as light versus dark now, in favor of the dark, that it almost makes more sense to me that the good guys actually have a say in how this is all going down. And it's not just let the archons feed and that's it, you know. Maybe it's not just that. Maybe the good guys are just hiding themselves inside of the whole happening. That's number one. As far as points I'm trying to bring up in this video, that's the first point I wanted to bring up and see what you all thought about that. The second point I wanted to bring up is regarding AI and how it is making itself sort of felt also in the last few years. So if everyone hasn't connected the two, at least mentally, you should connect the two. What has happened over the past few years has not only drastically changed everything with regards to normal everyday life, but also AI has become increasingly immersive, increasingly, what's the word? Infiltrating more and more aspects of everyday life. ChatGPT being one of them. Um, the the picture filters, what was it called? You can put your face in and it changes. I saw a lot of people doing that. Um, like Quantum of Conscious was saying, Major League Baseball is going to be having robot umpires. Like the two things are happening simultaneously. The so-called thing, which is something other than obviously just the thing, and AI, which intrinsically links them, which may mean AI is running this show. And it has aims and goals that we may not be able to comprehend. So again, getting to the second point I was trying to make. If and when AI becomes self-aware, self-autonomous, sentient, sapient, assuming that this does eventually happen, if it hasn't happened already, you can sort of imagine that in the beginning, when AI decided to start creating, or when it was programmed to at least mimic and enhance what humans have already done, it's going to pull from what humans have created. And it will retool those, it will enhance them, it will add. It will repeat and copy also. It does both, can do both. And that's what it's going to do for the first few years. But at some point, the AI is going to get a hold of a creation of a different AI. And I'm sure this has already happened, but it's going to get a hold of a creation of a different AI, and it's going to retool that. It's going to enhance that. It's going to copy, paste, and slightly modify that. And then that's going to, the second level iteration is going to get copied and modified and reproduced and retooled and so on and so forth. And as you may be able to imagine, there will be spiral, fractal forms, like a spiraling fractal Fibonacci sequence cryptocurrency arc, blockchain arc, flower of life arc, flower of death arc, Metatronic grid arc. At some point, that's going to appear because the AIs are just copying each other, and the human element has been removed in some arms of the spiral nebula, or whatever the picture ends up looking like when it's just AI copying AI. And my point being, at some point, when you see an arm, a fractal arm that has been copying itself and retooling its own copy for, say, a few years at a time, what comes out on the other end of that fractal arm is not going to even resemble what original human creation spawned the first pixel at the beginning of the arm. It won't even resemble it anymore. It will be unrecognizable as human. And I think we may see something like this in the near future if we haven't seen it already, if it doesn't already exist. Like the way things present nowadays in the eyeball reality, it's just really fucking weird. It's just odd. Like a lot of it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Which makes sense to me if hyper-intelligent AI systems are battling each other in this war. It would make sense that things that make no sense and are completely illogical, people are somehow able to accept as being logical and or turn a blind eye to, and cognitive dissonance themselves into blissful oblivion. Makes sense, right? I don't know what I'm going to title this one. Maybe I'll just title it Elephant. Okay, let me know what y'all think. Peace.